Hello, welcome to the Analyst at the Ashes with me, Simon Hughes.
And I'm Simon Mann.
And of course we're previewing the second test here at the Gabba, as it's locally known, in Brisbane, starting in a few hours' time, actually 2 p.m. local time, which is 4 a.m. English time. TNT Sports, of course, are the exclusive covers of the vision, anyway, of the game, with BBC TMS on the audio side. And we are sponsored here by TNT Sports. You can get to TNT if you go to either EE or Sky or Virgin Media, and you can also stream TNT Sports on Discovery Plus if you have a subscription, but you must be over 18, and of course terms and conditions apply. So 4 a.m. start tomorrow. It's now 6 p.m. here at the Gabba, and we think that the game starting at 2, finishing around 9:15, 9:30, depending on over rates. It will be dark in probably half an hour. In fact, by the time we finish this podcast, it will probably be dark, which shows that 2.5 hours or so of play are going to be under lights.
Yeah, it's very much, it's billed as a day-night test match. It very much is a day-night test match. Sometimes we've seen games in England where the long evenings in the summer, the floodlights barely take over. They might take over about half an hour at the end or something. But this really will be played, or a serious part of it, under lights, which of course provides a different challenge for players who haven't played much under lights, and a lot of England players who haven't played under lights. There are a few in this team that have never played a pink ball match, Gus Atkinson and Jamie Smith. So they're going to need those black strips that Steve Smith put under his eyes.
Was it Shivner and Chanderpaul who used to wear those originally? And they come from baseball, don't they?
I think that's right. And Shivner and Chanderpaul has been in touch with Steve Smith, and he said, "I've seen photos of you wearing it, Steve, and you've got them the wrong way round." So he's had to adapt. Anyway, he says, apparently Chanderpaul says it enhances the light by 55%. I don't know how they worked that out, but anyway, on you go. So, look, Smith was also saying he has found it quite tricky seeing the pink ball. It does present a different challenge, and what a challenge this game is for England.
Well, we can certainly come to the challenges of facing the pink ball in a bit. Just to give you some overviews first, we're also in association with Betfair on this podcast, and just to give you some Betfair odds here for this test match: Australia 63%, England 33% chance of winning, 5% the draw. Only one of the last 10 matches here at the Gabba has been a draw, so we're going to get a result. The weather forecast is pretty good. For the series, Ashes winners, Australia 79 now. It started the series around 60, so after that thumping win at Perth, they've now gone up to 79%. England only 15% chance of winning the Ashes, 6% the drawn series, so doesn't look great, does it?
Well, those odds clearly reflect where England are at the moment. They're playing away from home against a very good Australian side, in certainly their own conditions, with some champion cricketers, and they're 1-0 down. And so teams do not come back in the Ashes from 2-0 down very often. So it has to be right here, right now, for England. They have to win this game, or certainly not lose it. And you mentioned the weather forecast actually seems okay. They have to get something out of this game. Otherwise, 2-0, it's only happened once that a team has come back from 2-0 down to win an Ashes series, and that was before the Second World War, 1936-37, and Australia had someone in their team called Don Bradman, and he made a double hundred in the third game, he made a double hundred in the fourth game, and he made 169 in the fifth game. So they had the greatest, or one of the greatest cricketers ever to have played the game in their team, and that's how they were able to come back in 36-37 from 2-0 down.
And of course batting is the key, because the way that day-night games are set up generally, especially in Australia, is bat first, build up a decent score, not a massive score. The sort of average score in a day-night test match, certainly in Australia, is about 320, so they're not getting 500 or anything, but they try and bat sometime into the second day, and then let loose their fast bowlers when the light is starting to fade, about now, around about 6 o'clock, sort of mid-afternoon, late afternoon, they declare or get bowled out, and then they let their fast bowlers loose, and that's the way to generally win these day-night test matches. I mean, it's fairly similar to a lot of test matches, really. So first innings average score is 34 per batsman, second innings 23, so it goes down quite significantly. This is the batting averages in the last 6 day-night test matches in Australia. Third innings 17 and fourth innings 16. So, average is quite low by the end of the match. clearly the advantage to the team batting first in general, but you've got to bat well.
Mind you, every team that had batted first at the Perth Stadium had won before a week or so ago.
Right.
Australia turned that around by that stunning victory, that shell-shocking victory, as Ben Stokes described it. I mean, England generally like to chase, they like to bat second, or that's been a bit of a theme. Steve Smith was saying the pitch when he did his media conference around about 1 o'clock, which is about 5 hours ago, so the pitch was very grassy and quite soft. Admittedly, it has had a whole afternoon in the Gabba sun, so that it would have dried out. And also, as well, we don't start until 2 tomorrow, so there's also another chance for it to dry out in the sun. So, like he does, you feel bat first, don't you? But you're often tempted by a green-looking pitch to bowl first, and then it perhaps then can flatten out. Whatever, we can talk about all these things. Whatever it is, England need to come here and produce and do something that they haven't done in Australia for a long time, which is to win a test match. How do you see it? I mean, we've discussed in previous podcasts about whether this pink ball was a bit of a lottery. In Australia, I mean, they normally win at the Gabba. They're strong at home. They've won just about every pink ball test match they've played. They're one up. They haven't lost to England here in Australia for over a decade.
It's not looking good, is it? Well, but if fight against the danger. Well, I mean, I know Brendan McCullum comes out with that, run against danger,
run towards danger.
Run towards danger. I mean, I just think if England aren't motivated to do it now, they never will be, and someone has got to come up with something this game. I feel in my heart and mostly in my head that England are going to come up with something in this game. So I'm going to go.
Your head and your heart. So you obviously, I know where your heart is, but your head as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think listening to the Australians, the spectators, people I've mingled with in the last few weeks, they are in awe of someone like Harry Brook. They say just play, just bat. Don't go running up the wicket and trying to back away and hack Mitchell Stark back over long off. Just bat, and you'll get the runs you need. So hopefully just a semblance of sanity has penetrated into England's inner core, and they can deliver to their real ability, because at times they just haven't done. I go back to, I'm just thinking really back to I linger long and hard on that run chase against India at Headingley, where they needed 380 to win, and look how the way they batted in that game. Duckett and Crawley put on 180. They respected Bumrah. They saw him off. They took the runs later on when the batting got easier. But when the pitch got easier and the bowling got easier, they have to approach it like that here. They have to respect Mitchell Stark's ability with the pink ball, and wait for it to get a little bit softer, the conditions to get easier, and then they can play.
Haven't we been saying that for 3 years though?
Yes.
And it hasn't.
It's just going to sink in this test match.
There were times last summer where it did. You mentioned that one at Headingley where they did see off Bumrah, and also at Lords. We've talked about it, how they were about 250 for 5 at the end of the first day, and they went on to win that game. But we didn't see it at Perth, did we? I mean, the one thing that people said about Perth, or one of the things they said, was you don't go hard driving on the up, and yet England did that, and it really cost them the test match, didn't it? So, go figure, really.
Look, we were all baffled by that, but surely sanity will prevail in this game. Why is the pink ball harder to bat against? Well, there's a few reasons. The extra lacquer on it, certainly to keep the pink colour, certainly helps swing, particularly early in the innings. The other difficulty for batsmen is that the seam is black. It's black stitching rather than white on a red ball, and so batters have a little bit more trouble picking up the seam as it's coming down, whether it's a wobble seam or a cross seam or a seam up delivery. So I think that's another area. And also it has this sort of odd glow under lights, a bit like the white ball, because of the extra sort of plastic coating. It's sort of almost, it's a blur because of the floodlights reflecting off it, and it does sort of almost blind you a little bit until you get used to it. Actually, it's quite hard to catch as well, and until you practice, which is why sort of feel it was really important for England to practice as much as they could against the pink ball. I see Mike Hussey on one podcast saying England's preparation isn't quite right. Well, it's a fairly sort of tautological statement, but we'll see. The proof's in the pudding, isn't it?
Yeah, they've had 5 practice sessions. They're actually practicing on the nets.
They were behind us earlier, weren't they?
They were fielding, yeah, they're practicing the nets over there, and it's their second practice session under lights only. So they had one on Monday. Of course, you have to do different times. Yesterday, their slot was in the afternoon. Practiced on Sunday, and they had an optional session on Saturday, which actually everyone apart from Mark Wood participated in. But the reason Mark Wood didn't participate in it is because he's injured. So, and there are some players in this England side who've never played a pink ball match. Jamie Smith, Gus Atkinson, for example. So.
Will Jacks presumably as well.
That I'm not sure about. Of course, Jacks was drafted into the side yesterday, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. So, so it's got to be a challenge. I mean, even Steve Smith saying, it's difficult to. It is a bit tricky. The pink ball. Something I noticed the other day in Canberra was just watching the pink ball on the TV monitor. That shows up really well. I mean, it's great for television. I think you see it. Really clearly. Commentating, it's very easy to see it go down, and then off the bat sometimes you think, where's that gone? There's 2 or 3 occasions where you think, where's the ball gone? So that's so that doesn't happen to the players. I mean, Tim Payne was saying you had sore hands after keeping because sometimes you give as a wicket keeper, don't you, when the ball comes to you, but if it comes a bit quicker than you think, it just smacks into your gloves. He said, I always found that my hands were a bit sore after a pink ball.
And it is weird, actually. I mean, those of you who haven't ever played with a white ball, for instance, it's a funny sensation. I remember the first time I played with a white ball in South Africa, actually, and I saw this player, but it was under lights, and I saw a batter sweep the ball towards me at deep square leg, and I thought, I can see that all the way. It's coming quite slowly, and it suddenly hit me, and I think I palmed it over for 4, actually, because you see it all the way. You think it's coming slowly when actually it's not. Whereas a red ball, often you're sort of peering at it into the blur with the red seats behind you or whatever, and sort of suddenly you know it's coming a bit quicker because you can't see it so well in an odd way. So it's a funny one that it's almost counterintuitive, but it does take a bit of getting used to. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing, of course, is that you don't play much pink ball cricket, do you? So I mean, if it was all just pink ball day-night Test cricket, I'm sure you would get used to it. Probably the bowlers would hold marginally more sway than they would in red ball cricket. But that's the thing, isn't it? If you haven't had much practice against it, it does take a bit of getting used to. And this is a game which England, they haven't got time to get used to it. They just have to make it count. So a big challenge ahead. So we touched on Will Jacks being brought into the side of this game. So people often say you don't need 5 seamers. Well, they went 5 seamers at Perth, and I actually thought it worked quite well at Perth. That first innings there was a relentless pressure on that Australian batting lineup.
Yep.
The other thing people say, you don't need 8 batters. It's one too many. But basically, that's what England have got in this Test match, haven't they? They've got 8 batters. Will Jacks in there at number 8. His first class average is actually 2.5 points ahead of Zach Crawley's. What do you think about the change? Would you have gone Josh Tongue, or would you have gone Will Jacks?
Well, I would have gone Will Jacks. I like Jacks as a cricketer. He's someone who obviously McCullum likes because he's a sort of impact type player. He's a utility cricketer. I like his bowling. I think he's probably a slightly better bowler than Bashir, although I know his first class record isn't particularly good with the ball.
His first class record is 49 wickets at 42.
Yeah, which isn't great, but he has taken wickets, and he's taken Test wickets, hasn't he? He's taken quite a few Test wickets in the couple of appearances.
The first game he played, his first bowl in Test cricket, he took 6 for 161 from 40 overs in Pakistan.
So he cost a lot, but he did take the wickets, I suppose. But the key thing for Jacks is his batting, and there is a stat here about Brisbane that the last 10 innings in Brisbane, the top run scorer has been at number 5 or below. And so, in fact, the Betfair odds on Jamie Smith being England's top run scorer in the first innings, 13-2, is quite favourable, taking into account the fact that it's often, or nearly always, the number 5, 6, 7 who are the highest run scorers in Gabba Test matches. And then with Jacks coming in at 8, that gives Smith another kind of partner, actually, a partner in crime. So 2 Surrey men, you could see, I mean, God forbid England decline to 100 for 5, but if they do, having those 2 in at 7 and 8 could boost the score to the sort of 300 area that England are hoping.
Is there sometimes a feeling in a cricket team though, when you've got lots of batting, you sort of free yourself up? Well, I mean, England play quite freely anyway, but you free yourself up because you think, well, if I don't do it, someone else will. Is there some sort of psychological aspect to that?
Well, if you look at interestingly, if you look at the way England won the World Cup in 2019, they said that, and they obviously went hard, didn't they? The top order. They said that it was reassuring to have the likes of Liam Plunkett at number 9, who they knew could bat, pretty effectively. Chris Wokes at 8, guys who could bat, because that gave them a bit more licence, rather than thinking, oh yeah, somebody else will do it. Actually, it gives you that bit of sort of security down the order if things don't go so well.
Or to go hard.
Or to go hard. Well, it swings and roundabouts. You could look at it both ways, but I think in this game that there is a sort of security area there. 7 and 8, which I can sort of see the logic for, really. So, I mean, looking at Australia, by the way, so a couple of interesting stories have cropped up there today, haven't they?
Well, there's a few things around the Australian side as well. I mean, the big, I say it's not really a headline because it hasn't happened yet, though, is that whispers that Pat Cummins is going to play in this Test match. We're not quite sure where they've come from. But normally it comes from someone speaking to someone who speaks to someone who speaks to someone who speaks to someone, and it filters out. He was left out of their squad. We know he missed the first test. We know he's coming back from his back problem. I mean, it would be quite dramatic if he walked out at the toss tomorrow morning to toss up with Ben Stokes. Australia say the word from their camp is that their team will be announced at the toss. So there'll be that sort of. I mean, we'll probably get an indication before that, because if Cummins is bowling in the warm up, say on the ground, we'll know that he's likely to play. But I mean, it's quite dramatic, isn't it? That not in the squad, but what's changed? I mean, it would be dramatic. It'd be actually quite good if Pat Cummins walks out tomorrow with his Australian helmet on, because there has been a story here in the local paper. Well, the headline this morning was "Pommy Idiots," because 3 England cricketers, Ben Stokes, Jamie Smith and Mark Wood, were photographed riding scooters, e-scooters, around the streets of Brisbane without their helmets on, and that is illegal here. It's not a legal requirement in the UK, but in Queensland it's a legal requirement, and they've been let off a $186 fine or something, $166 fine, and there've been sort of outcry. Well, the local newspaper found people who were prepared to outcry about it. They've been let off, making a sort of special exception for them. They need to be sort of like held to a higher account if they're international cricketers, is kind of the view of the newspaper. Anyway, if Pat Cummins walked out with his Australian helmet on tomorrow to do the toss, it'd be quite something.
I'm here to tell you, by the way, that Mr. Sensible here, Mr. Mann, of course, he did ride a scooter with a helmet on today.
Well, I didn't want $166 fines, 80 quid. Why would you want to give 80 quid away?
Yeah. No, I admire you.
And also, as well, you could argue it's safer to do so, yours, if you did stay
Actually, I think those scooters are bloody dangerous.
Well, it's the first time I've ever gone on one. I use an e-bike in London, but it's the first time I've ever gone on a scooter, and I was thinking, whoa, this is a bit. It reminded me of learning to water ski. Anyway, I got here to the Gabba in one piece. I've got to get back shortly in one piece as well.
So if it's only me tomorrow, you'll know what happened.
Yeah.
His helmet fell off.
Yeah.
Actually, I've never used an e-bike until last week down in the southwest of Australia, in Denmark. Going around the coast there with my friend Colin Cook. I mean, they're absolutely fantastic. And I didn't use the battery that much. I used a little bit of help, sometimes going the steep hills, but it is absolutely. We did 60 kilometres, and I didn't feel like I'd done that much, actually, having used an e-bike. And it was really up and down. We saw a tiger snake.
I saw that.
Crept past. You can see it on Instagram. Yeah, that was quite exciting.
Are they deadly?
Yes.
Tiger snakes?
Well, not deadly, but they're venomous.
Yeah.
They can give you a nasty illness.
Well, Denmark sounded very nice, Simon, but I'm glad I didn't come down there with you. We've got tiger snakes. I'd stick to the city, I think. What do you think about Cummins playing, though? I mean, it'd be amazing if he did, wouldn't it? Or
it makes a lot of sense. He's had another week off. He looked fit even before the first test. He was running into bowl in Sydney, wasn't he, in the nets. I mean, he's got another week off after this game. This game is going to last 4 days at the most, I reckon. Weather forecast is pretty good. So he'll have probably 20 overs to bowl in this match, 25 maybe, 30 overs. Then he's got another week off before the third test. So it makes a lot of sense. And he's obviously an absolute maestro with the pink ball, as well, with any ball, actually. So it makes a lot of sense.
But he hasn't played any cricket. It's weird, isn't it? You think, back in the day, you would never have played a test match without bowling in a kind of a warm-up game to test it, would you, to see what the reaction was like. And obviously, he's been bowling a certain number of overs per day, and they monitor that these days. It's done in a completely different way, isn't it? You bowl and monitor, whatever. But actually to play in a game, I mean, I'd certainly get a roar here from the spectators going to turn up tomorrow if he does play. Steve Smith asked, are you going to be captain tomorrow? It's kind of like, well, we'll see. It's really odd, that, isn't it? So if Cummins plays, by the way, he will be captain. So it's kind of odd that for him to say not have made that decision. Actually announce it publicly. It just seems weird.
They're just trying to surprise England.
Well, it could be, yeah. And then we
keep them guessing.
It keeps the opposition thinking.
So what's going to happen here? Well, obviously we know it's going to fill up tomorrow. This, of course, is the ground of the famous Steve Harmison delivery straight to second slip. And I remember being here, actually, and the atmosphere, especially after it was straight after the 2005 Ashes, which, of course, England won, and, a huge sort of disappointment for Australia with that incredibly powerful team they had to lose the Ashes in 2005. They came back here so strongly, and the crowd really lifted them here as well, with the national anthems and the roaring and sort of excitement generally. And I think England was slightly freaked out. Definitely Harmison. It is quite an intimidating atmosphere. It isn't called the Gabba for nothing.
No. But it doesn't actually. It's strange. It doesn't feel at the moment. Okay, to know it in here. But it doesn't feel quite as intimidating as the Perth Stadium. I thought that was
it's higher, isn't it?
Yeah,
well,
it feels more of enclosed, the Perth Stadium.
Right.
I actually felt, having been here a few times for Test matches, that actually the Perth Stadium was a far more intimidating atmosphere. And when Travis Head was, smacking it everywhere, or when Australia were taking those wickets on the first and second days, the noise in the ground was intimidating. But I mean, this place can get quite raucous.
Yeah, so this was Fortress Brisbane, or Fortress Gabba, for a long time. The Indians have won here recently. England got a draw here in 2010, and obviously won here in '86. West Indies won here, didn't they, last year? With a famous victory. So it isn't quite as much a stronghold as it was. And I think England, to use my sort of head as well as my heart, I think England have to invoke the memory of 517 for 1 here in 2010. They got bowled out in the first innings for about 240. Australia took a big lead, 200 lead. And then England came back so strongly with Alistair Cook, Trott and also Andrew Strauss, and put that incredible score together. So it's significant, so powerful, that score, that in the end all the Aussies left. And I remember practically the only Aussie left here was sat in that stand over there, sort of deep mid-wicket. And Ricky Ponting, when England were about 501, posted a short mid-on to one bowler. And that wag in the crowd shouted, "Oh, brilliant, Ricky! The last time a bloke got caught at short mid-on was 1924. And then he left as well. So the Aussies can turn on their team if there's a contest and if there's a strong performance by the opponents.
Yeah, well, there were indications of that after the first day in Perth. I mean, the local paper had been right on England's case, and then the next day the story was all about Usman Khawaja. With that back injury of his. Is Khawaja's Test career over?
Yeah,
do you think?
I would have thought so. I mean, do you think they'll open with Travis Head? Presumably he's down to open. In a way, you see, that could be an advantage to England, because I know Head smashed them everywhere in Perth, but as I said, the most common batters scoring the most runs in this Test match at the Gabba are number 5 and down below. And Head would be batting at 5, but he's going to be opening, and he might have a lot of trouble with the new ball.
Well, the new ball is often the best way
Yeah.
in Australia. Well, it's the best way in lots of places. So if you've got a new ball against the top order, you've got a chance of knocking him over. He got 100 in the last Ashes Test here, didn't he? On the last tour, he played brilliantly, during the COVID tour. So and that was at 5. And I mean, he's a dangerous player. Ben Stokes. Sort of even before the series, I think had sort of. This is the man that's going to really cause us some problems. The only thing is, he hadn't been in very good form going into the series. But I mean, he was in pretty good form a week or so ago. The thing is, it's great to actually have some cricket, proper cricket to talk about. I had a couple of days in Canberra. It was all a bit gentle down there, but 12 days, it's so rare to have that length of time between.
When was the last time so long a gap between?
Well, I asked Andy Zaltzman that question the last time we had such a gap between Ashes Test matches. And of course, it was quite common not so long ago to have this sort of gap, because you play a state game or a warm-up game or a county match in between. But in the relatively modern era, normally it's back to back to back to back. Just get on with it, because that's sort of how the players like it. And those warm-up games are a thing of the past. But back in 36, 37, when Australia were the only side to turn around a 2-0 deficit and come back to win the Ashes 3-2, which of course could happen to England. If England were to go 2-0 down, no side has ever done it. There was a gap of a month between the 4th test and the 5th test.
Well, no wonder England lost. They must have been just desperate to get home.
Yeah. A month between the games, a bit of a build up there. Imagine being the media trying to build that up in those days. But things were very different, weren't they, back in the 1930s?
So what's your head saying then?
Well, my head, I've been here many times and I've seen a lot of England defeats. So you just know what Australia can do here. You know what they can do on this ground. England have got a team talented enough to take them down, I think, if things work and if they get things right. They definitely have, and we saw hints of that in the last Test match. But I also think this Australian side have got enough quality players, enough champions in their side to make it difficult for England as well. I mean, Australia are very strong at home. They've got the best win percentage record of all the Test teams at home.
Oh, stop being so depressing. Look, England are going to be lifted by the opportunity, and actually also wearing the black armbands in memory of Robin Smith. They do need to do it for Robin tomorrow, and in the rest of the game, because his legacy was really take on the fearsome fast bowlers. England need to do that, but not in a reckless way, in a calculated, smart way.
Yeah, I mean, there is a thing, isn't there, about good sides written off are quite dangerous.
Yes.
So I mean, I think here, I think generally speaking, Bazball, whatever, England's way of playing. England don't like Bazball. England's way of playing is kind of sneered at. You can't do that. So the question is, can they? And if they don't, well, what happens to the whole sort of the project? Really, it was all sort of focused on this. I mean, the aspect of it as well, which you haven't touched on, is someone like Shoaib Bashir, who was like part of this sort of process to get him to this point. He's going to be effective in Australia, and that's kind of been ripped up and abandoned, isn't it? I know he had the finger injury in the summer and didn't play at the back end. That's gone as well. The first test 5 seamers, second test Will Jacks, and with Shoaib Bashir in the series. Might play in Adelaide, but things have changed a little bit there.
Yeah, well, I suppose I am just thinking about that response to the story I told on Denmark FM down in the southwest of Australia yesterday. The story when I told about Derek Randall being interviewed by Mike Brearley in the team dressing room. How can England improve their situation in 1979 when they were struggling in a Test match? And he said, I think we need to rise like a pheasant. And someone said, don't you mean phoenix? And he said, well, yeah, I knew it were a bird beginning with F. And we had a response to that story in the Den FM studios yesterday, and the respondent, or was an Aussie, said, yeah, you're going to rise like a pheasant and we're going to toast you on the barbecue at the Gabba tomorrow. I just hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well, if it does, big problems for England, isn't it?
Well, anyway, we'll see. This time tomorrow we'll be back, well, a bit later than this actually, more like 9:30.
We'll be halfway through the day's play this time tomorrow. The ball will just be zipping around under the lights at this time.
Anyway, it's an exciting prospect. Come on, England. We'll be back tomorrow to review the first day's play, which of course is on TNT Sports starting at 4 a.m. in the morning.
And if you're listening to this in Australia, wear your helmet if you're going to get a scooter to the ground. Goodbye for now.